Hey,
YN7, thank you for tuning. Have Damien with us today from Social Gong. Damien, take a moment and introduce yourself for the people, please. Appreciate you being here.
yeah, thank you for having me on board. So I'm really excited for this. Yeah, I've done like live speeches and stuff like that, but I've actually never done one of these like live stream things. So this is a first time for me. I'm a rookie at this officially.
Oh, nah.
So, anyways, my name is Damien Orozco, and I'm the founder of Social Gong, which is a specialized marketing agency that focuses on helping my clients find their clients on LinkedIn. And basically, instead of them having to do all that work, we do all that work for them. We take care of all the hard work, and all they got to do is basically show up to their appointment and close that deal, and our job is done. And we celebrate together. So, yeah,
Celebrate together. I like the fact that you've taken it a step further and actually specialized with LinkedIn in particular, which is a platform that a lot of business people use, um, which really gives them a machine that they can be hands off from to generate leads while they live their daily lives. So that's an awesome service, awesome problem solving, awesome solution for the people. A while
thank you.
ago, yeah, no doubt. A while ago, I did a video a little while ago on the auto workers, and I
Okay.
was speaking about how the strike is going to be a failure ultimately because all strikes are failures because they're not considering anything beyond their own small pool of people. And if you want to use a term to bring it home, it's just selfish, right? They want to get more while the rest of the world is having the same problem, but they're not in consideration. It creates an imbalance. And then in response to that, when we were talking offline, you shared the issue in California, where they're raising the minimum wage out there to $20,
Yeah.
and Chipotle actually came out and said they are absolutely going to hike the prices, emphasis on the word hike, to help pay for the new $20 wage. Um, First of all, just what's your general thoughts, high level overview and thoughts about strikes with the auto workers and situation like Chipotle raising the prices for minimum wage? Just speak on that for a moment and give your general opinion, and we'll move into some more precise conversation with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's a tough situation because it's a monster that's hard to fix, right? It's like we all want to be able to put food on the table, provide for our family, have a roof over our head. If we need to get around, uh, you know we want a car rather than having to rely on public transportation, which explains why LA is so congested with traffic, right? A lot of people tell me it's like how much they love LA, right, when they're visiting LA, and it's so beautiful and everything like that. But then I say, yeah, that's what everybody says until they experience our traffic, our homeless population, the cost of living, and they start having second thoughts. Which, during COVID, what did that do? It created a mass, leave of California, right, where people just say, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity to go somewhere where it's more affordable, and which brings us back to your question is, it's like how do we find a balance in that where everybody wins, right? Because an example with what you were talking about, the automotive industry, right, is the people are striking because they want fair pay, right? And one of the biggest challenges with that is that eventually that's gonna you know the companies never want to lose, right? They want to keep their
Mhm.
profit margins high because they want to keep their investors happy, right? And that's the way you keep getting people buying stocks, is you keep saying, hey, look, we went from point A to point B, from quarter one and quarter two. And so of course you're going to have investors enthusiastic wanting to invest, especially if they forecast that they're going to have even higher profits the following quarter. And so I can't remember the specific year when this happened, but there was a time frame where the automotive industry, the actual workers in the automotive industry had agreed to not uh, um, expect more pay. And if I remember this correctly, they were also agreeing, to take less pay so that the automotive industry can stay alive. And well, it kind of made sense, right? Because they're also protecting their jobs by saying, okay, we're gonna help you out by taking a loss so that you can continue to thrive. And then now, come post COVID, the profit margins are way up from their previous years, and they're not giving back to the workers, right? They're not
Mhm.
saying, hey, you know what, guys, thank you for you know helping us out here, and giving us a chance to get through this rough these rough times. And then when the moment comes to for them to say, we're now going to give you a raise, and give you all these extra perks or whatever for helping us out, we're gonna you know hand it over back to you as a way of saying thank you, and we all win. But as you can see, that's not what happened. Is they decided, well, we're not gonna do that. And then the workers started saying, hey, you know what, the unions got together, and they started saying, hey, you need to give us our fair cut. You're now here, which you weren't, thanks to our actions, and we want our fair cut. But the
Yeah.
consequence, I know you call it selfish, but it's both sides are being selfish, and because in the end, everybody's thinking, you know, what's in it for me, right? And so how do you solve that? And so now you're seeing that, in it's funny because we had just had this discussion, right? And then I see this article the next morning after we talked about this pop up about Chipotle saying they're going to raise their prices because California
Yep.
has said you need to increase the minimum wage, and they're basically saying, oh yeah, well, we got to figure out a way not to lose our profit margins, and keep our stores open, and so we're going to do this. We're going to increase our prices, and guess who suffers? You, me, and
Everybody.
every other consumer. So so it's tough to figure out, how do you whose side do you take on, right? And I mean, I've lived in both worlds. I've been an employee for many years. I quit my last job in 1998. I always tell people, I've been happily unemployed since 1998. And it doesn't mean I was happy that whole time, and I've been happy the whole time, right? I've been through all my struggles. Like, when I actually started, and actually I got my numbers wrong. I I started as a personal trainer in 1998, and I quit my last job as a personal trainer in 2007 and started my first company in 2008. But
Hmm.
then guess what happened in 2008? The economy crashed, right?
Right.
So I had a serious lesson in what they call the school of hard knocks, right? Is, oh crap, is like, I'm in this position, what do I do now, and um, luckily a lot of things fell in place that helped me stay afloat. And it also helped that I went in there and I figured, I got nothing to do. They're asking me over here if I would help them out and volunteer, and I would do it. I'd say, might as well give back, and share my talents with people who could benefit from it, even though I'm not getting nothing from it. But in the end, they always say the more you give, the more you get, right? I,
Right. Right.
that eventually helped build my resume for my first business, to where people would go onto my LinkedIn profile and they would see, you know,
Uh,
uh, they a lot of people call me my accolades, right? I saw your accolades on LinkedIn. It's like, wow, you got all this extensive experience,
so
and
Damien,
yeah,
so that explains your affinity for the LinkedIn aspect of it, and probably
yes,
why you started there with it, because that's where it grew.
yeah,
And I like how you brought up a moment ago. People were leaving the big cities to go somewhere quote unquote more affordable, right?
right,
And what we're dealing with here now, and the success of that, is there's really two issues when it comes to the products, right? You got your local product like a Chipotle or restaurant that's serving people locally, right? Then you have the national impact or even international in some cases, like a Ford automaker who's going to be distributing their product world worldwide and nationally. So, and then I like in the beginning, because you made reference to when the unions said that they know the situation and they're going to take a pay cut even to make sure that the show must go on, right? and
yeah,
and the people can survive and the nation needs transportation, and we're going to do this under that premise of we the people supporting the people.
right,
Now, when Ford first got started, ironically, Henry Ford was the one that was, I think, I'm pretty sure he said, you know what, we're going to double our employees' worker wages to make them, really be secure and bought into what they're doing, producing these revolutionary items at the time. So when when I said it was selfish, for better or for worse, it's selfish, right?
Mhm.
Because even if they look at it like you said, when the union said we are going to take a pay cut, they're inadvertently putting themselves in a weak position, because if you agree to that for 10 years, well, look at the inflation situation, look at the changes in the world and around you, and economy, prices go up. Let's say the prices doubled in 5 years into that. Now they are actually in a strife mode because they agreed to a 10-year term of lesser pay. Not, so now that's hurting themselves long run. So what happens is, no matter how you play it out, when you roll those dice, it's
Mhm.
gonna be a problem, because the way I put it is, you can't be true without considering the infinity. So
Yeah.
we can't say what these workers need unless we consider all the workers in the entire marketplace, right?
Right.
Then we can be true in our assessment. I brought up this issue when, like, years ago, when McDonald's and all them first started saying they were going to have the opportunity to raise their wages.
You're right.
Then it became state issues. Oh, minimum wage here, $15. And I was like, yeah, what's going to result in that? What's going to be a success is bread's going to be $8 a loaf. Not maybe really, but given the extreme example there, because you're going to create a domino effect. So I bring all that up to say, that's going to lead to potentially increased cost of living for everybody, because whether it's uh, Ford the way they did it, or Chipotle the way they did it, it may not be an isolated event. Other businesses in the area might also need to increase prices and compensation for higher labor costs.
That's gonna be automatic, man. It's you use the perfect word, and I like that you brought that up. It's a domino effect, right?
Hmm.
Because they're gonna raise their prices for their cars, right? But I mean, look at what happened with gas, right? During COVID, I remember um, before it started, I believe I was paying 2.75 a gallon, and then because nobody was driving, the the oil prices plunged to the bottom of the ocean, and
Hmm.
and people were, I know I was really excited because I was paying so much less, but I knew that as soon as people started getting on the road, that was gonna they were gonna get the way I like to say it, they were gonna get back at us. That's the way I see it, right? They were gonna get back at us. Because they were literally trying to give away their oil, right? They were telling
Hmm.
people take it, but nobody would take it, and they didn't know what to do with it. But now, things are going back to normal, and what do? Hey, let's raise up our prices. War in Ukraine. Hey, let's raise our prices. We have another war happening. I mean, they just come with every single excuse as to why raise their prices. And if they can't raise their price because of some excuse, what do? Oh, we had to maintain our refineries, so we're shutting down, a couple of sections of our facilities so that for maintenance. Like, well, shouldn't you be doing that in the first place? Like, you and me, we want to get around. We try to make sure we're doing maintenance on our car on a regular basis so it doesn't become a problem in the future, right? And eventually the car is going to break down, just like we're going to pass away. Everything has a life stage that we're, the beginning and the ending, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, but that domino effect, like you said, it's gonna trickle down to everybody else, And I mean, look, going back to the gas price example, the gas prices are really high, which means it's cutting on everybody's income. But to make things even worse, the prices are going higher everywhere else because now these companies, and unfortunately, the small businesses don't have the same financial power to absorb the impact of rising prices.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself: is the price, like you mentioned indirectly, is the prices actually rising, or are these controlled scenarios to drive up the prices to, you know, make it difficult for people to travel, or make them travel less? And basically, what we're speaking on here is consumer behavior changes. So to bring it back, the higher prices for Chipotle might actually prompt the customers to have to go look for other sources for their, what they would get for Chipotle.
Yeah,
Let's
you're
say
not
it
gonna
was
get me a
Starbucks.
Chipotle. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say it was Starbucks, right? It's going
Mhm.
to be an opportunity for them to start to look for local coffee shops or local venues that can replace that big national chain. And I speak on this all the time because what I ultimately am doing is I'm looking to help reduce codependency on large corporations and big government by empowering the small people, the small businesses, to make a sustainable community. And ironically, Social Gong is perfectly adapted for those small businesses to take advantage of situations like this because, like we just mentioned, there are going to be people looking for alternatives. How can you help the community step in, the small business owner that has the coffee shop, the pizza shop, when Pizza Hut and Domino's raise their prices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for all the different industries and brands? Explain the benefit and the value that you add to the community to help them t- take advantage to support their families in such a transition.
Well, just to clarify a couple of things about my company. So my company is primarily focused on a business to business industry. Someone who's trying to sell a product or a service to another business, either because they need it for their daily operations, or they're trying to take over, a competitor who already may be providing that for them. Or it could be like I have one client right now that I'm working with, and I can't say too much details, but what I can say is that there's a current product on the market that exists right now, and it has to get removed, and not and for various reasons. One, because it's dangerous for the workers. It's like coal miners, right? They go and they work in the coal mines, and they have limited protections from you know inhaling that dust, and dust, no matter what you do, it's very difficult to block. Right?
Mhm.
And and so we're he's trying to introduce this new product that says, hey, there's two problems that we're solving here. One, it's used on a regular basis, and it needs to be replaced. And, by law, it needs to be replaced. So we have something for you that will help replace that item, and also protect the environment and also protect your employees. So that's an example of kind of like, the kind of people I work. Business to consumer, we could help because we do web design, and we have all these other extra components that sometimes we have to implement, because sometimes I come across somebody who's interested in us helping them, find new business on LinkedIn. And that's the challenge with LinkedIn, is a lot of people, they don't know how to use it, and so they approach it in the wrong way, and then they say LinkedIn doesn't work for them, right? But it's a matter of how you approach people, and really about trying to build relationships before trying to say, hey. And I think we had this conversation where I said, I'll get a message, or somebody will say, hey, I'm the solution to your problem, and if you sign up with me today, we'll do XYZ, and your profit margins will increase 300%. I'm like, oh, well, that's great that you said that, but I have no clue who you are. I don't even know if I like you. I don't even know if I trust you. That goes, for sure. I definitely don't trust you yet. And I joke around with them, and I say, when you first saw that your first, you know, opposite sex or same sex, whatever preference you have, did you tell that person to marry you at first sight? I, I said, I highly doubt it. There is some people that do that, right? But it's not a normal thing to do, right? So in sales, it's the same thing. You don't want to go in and they're trying to promise the world, and the person has no knowledge of who you are. How are they
Right.
going to trust you into doing that? So we work in basically saving our clients a lot of time, so that they can focus on doing what they love doing rather than trying to find leads. So we sit down with them, we do an extensive interview, and we try to figure out, what does that ideal client look like for you? Who's that decision maker? If we were to approach them, and that person is the one that's going to give you the yes, rather than saying, uh, give me the information, I'll pass it on to so and so and see what they think, right? Because
Mm.
once you hit, a lot of times we call them the gatekeeper, right? If you come across a gatekeeper, it decreases your odds of getting in the door. But if on LinkedIn, you can go after a person by name, by industry, by location, by job title, and so that's where we help those businesses, right? Is we get that information from them. We make sure we got all the details that we need to know so that we can go directly after them on LinkedIn. For them, actually, we do it through their actual LinkedIn profile and sending those connection requests, and then trying to entice those prospects and trying to uh, get curious about wanting to know more about our clients, so that then that mysterious appointment shows up on their calendar. And because everything's been happening in their inbox, all you got to do is show up and close a deal. And I tell them, give them the best experience possible so that you get more referrals off that new client, because a happy client is always your best referral partner, right? And so
Right.
that's where our focus has been, is to try to work. Like, I could try to reach out to bigger corporations or medium-sized businesses with what I do, but I'm a small business owner myself, and I know how it feels to struggle. And so I want to help small business owners. And so that's why I go after, is I go um, after small business owners to try and say, hey, look, I got, you know, I have this solution. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about it. Get your thoughts and see if it's something that makes sense for you. And if it does, hey, let's move forward, and let's try to make happiness happen.
Absolutely. And this is, like I said, this is an extraordinary opportunity for that, because with the supply chain impacts of something like the Chipotle situation or the Ford situation, if we isolate it just to the restaurant chains, because that's something more easier for people to think in their mind of owning a restaurant, and or more people do. Like, there's not a lot of local car manufacturers, you know what I'm saying? But so to make it make sense for the average person, um, Chipotle says they have to raise their prices, could actually lead to increased costs in their supply chains. The farmers, the food producers, other suppliers may face the pressure then to raise their prices,
Yeah,
basically spiraling back to Chipotle having to re-raise their prices. And now we're in this vicious inflationary spiral upwards because of the back and forth of that. You actually, in saying that you deal with business to business, now you can mitigate those relationships as well between business owner and vendor, to create and forge new relationships that would be that would make more sense and generate better ROI under such conditions, because
yeah,
treat that search for a vendor to business in a B2B relationship aspect too.
exactly. Yes,
Now here's
yes,
the bonus factor, right? The bonus factor for how you can support the community is, in that upward spiral of inflation, at some point Chipotle is going to be like, you know what? It's probably better if we eliminate 25% of our staff and just automate this part of the process. Like you see with McDonald's coming out with the new restaurants that don't have anybody at all out front, and it's drive through, and the whole up front is you just pushing the buttons on the screen and your food comes out like on a conveyor belt, right? A couple people working in the back, that's it. So that's gonna mean, or the labor market impact. So one of the cool aspects about LinkedIn is there's a lot of like networking for hiring of positions and stuff in there too.
that's
So
right. Yeah,
now in a B2B, same formula, maybe just a different user interface person sitting at the end, you can actually help the small businesses capture some of that expertise and talent from the larger corporations and translate that back to the community to now support and grow the small businesses and help bring them to scale to compete with the larger businesses. How Talk about that for a moment.
yeah. So that's a good question, because one of the things I'm always thinking about, as I'm looking to grow, is like, you know, how do I make it so that I can continue to be sustainable, but that I also create a job for somebody else who can do work for me that I don't want to become an expert at, because I don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So, as when I was first starting my company, the only thing I was focusing on was the LinkedIn work, and then I realized I was running into a lot of businesses that were looking for my support. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but they either didn't have a website, or their website needed some work. Uh, they're not being listed in the right places, and if they're listed, information is inaccurate. Which, I'll give you an example of one client that's a small business owner. They're based out of San Diego, and I met them on Alignable, which is where we met, right?
Mhm.
I met her on Alignable, and she had reached out to me because somebody had recommended her to me, and she was saying she was struggling to get business. So I said, okay, what, I have this software in my system that can help run your company name and figure out where it's showing up, how it's showing up, and we'll look into a couple other things. And one of the things that I ran into was when you went to our website, there was a Google link there to that's supposed to take you to Google My Business, but that link was taking them to their competitor, and their competitor's Google profile, right? So when you go there, well, guess what you're gonna see? So you're gonna see that competitor's information as well. And so
Mhm.
I told her, well, here's one reason why you're losing business is because you're sending your client your potential clients to your competitors. I go, and then there's all these areas where you're listing, and if people are trying to find you, um, they're either running into the wrong address, wrong phone number, with the same business name. And so we need to fix all those little areas first before we do anything on LinkedIn, so that to make sure that if your prospects start searching and looking around to learn more about your company, that they run into accurate information, and they don't end up calling a phone number that leads them either to nowhere, to the wrong business, or to your worst case scenario, to your competitor, right?
Mhm.
And so, but by doing that, I try to patch up everything that needs to get fixed up before we launch that LinkedIn campaign, because the end result of us helping them succeed, which did happen with her, is like once we started putting all those things together in place for her, and she's in the business to consumer. So actually, she's in both. She sells to consumers and businesses. So she's one of those unique businesses that can offer what they provide to either side, B2B or B2C, right? Um, and so once we got all these things in place, she started generating more business. But one of the things that I asked her before we started doing this is, why are you looking for somebody else to help you with your website? Is what happened with your relationship with your previous web designer? It turned out she had, like, I think she said, 5 different designers, and she said none of them, no matter what they did to her website, was not generating traffic. And obviously, one of those reasons was within the website, right? But none of them ever offered to maintain her website either. And so there's a lot of things that businesses aren't aware of when it comes to marketing, such as keeping up your website, so that you can keep generating business, that they're not doing because either they don't know about it, or whatever happens between that relationship. And so, um, but what does that do? What does that do for the small business? If they're getting more business, means they're likely going to need more people to hire, right? And like you said, you can actually use LinkedIn itself to try to hire talent from, if you want to hire them from your competitor, or like, let's just say if you're in the tech world, you're in retail, and maybe you want to figure out how to really get your store going online. Maybe you want to hire somebody that works for Amazon, right? Because they have all the know-how, if they're in the right job title, job position, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. And with that, thanks for sharing that example with the customer, because I think a lot of people are suffering from that and don't realize it. One, because they don't have any control measures in place to check and verify when something's broken or needs to be updated, patches, what's it called, when they do the updates every so often,
yeah,
that
yeah,
type of thing. So revisions, PMs, basically on the technologically based stuff. So a lot of people can benefit from just having their site looked at, like a
just
car.
from that, yeah.
Yeah. So now we're in a position where we've recognized that identifying and targeting potential customers who are looking for alternatives from the large chains is actually this actually is a gift, because for the longest time, small businesses found it hard to compete with
Hmm.
the large chain. They get the discounts in from the vendor because they're ordering 1 million chicken patties, right? Versus the local shop only is ordering like 1,000, right?
Yeah,
So now that the big chains are going to have increased overhead, it kind of gives them a more competitive. It kind of gives the small businesses closer to being competitive in the long run, so they can leverage that. Now, what we what we know is that small businesses benefit from loyal customer bases,
Yes.
and primarily they're known to have better customer support, right?
Right.
Versus having
Very.
to call customer service over wherever, gets on the phone. You actually have that person that know you by name, by face, versus, hey, can I have your account number? You know?
Yeah.
So how what recommendations would you have from the small business that may be in whatever their current state is right now, right?
Hmm.
To um look, maybe contact you. Let's say a customer contacts you, they're in their current state. They want to build a strong local presence and reputation so that they can get that customer loyalty and support. What type of options do you offer for that, through LinkedIn? Niche market, non-niche market, is there a difference? Get, let the people hear some of your ideas. Where would you start? Where should they start?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you like rephrase it?
Sure,
Sorry.
sure, sure, sure. So local company, because what I hear is, I know you're dealing with B2B
Hmm.
and in some options B2C, right? Which
Hmm.
in reality, it's like this thin of a line between basically a marketing campaign, right?
Yeah.
So if a customer wanted to now create a stronger brand presence,
Hmm.
they look at their website, you see that, okay, this is where their website is. They have a LinkedIn. Is there something that you can offer for them to attack growing a stronger online presence? Because now here's the opportunity. Here's what behind the question. Here's what I'm looking at. With
Yeah.
the businesses becoming more now competitive to the larger businesses, if you get once we start getting them to show up higher on Google and SEO optimization, right? They can, when these people are searching for the alternatives, they'll start to pop up, right?
Yeah.
So now they're in position. So that's basically now, even though it's so simple, it's basically now reaching into marketing campaign. So how do you blend all that together with what you do to make a seamless approach for them to gain what they're looking for? Maybe new employees, maybe new vendors, and at the same time spin that into a marketing campaign, because people love the story, right? People are in love with the story of the brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a great time to tell the story. Hey, look, we're here. This is what's going on in our community. We want to stand for you, the people. And then maybe you have people that go, you know what, I'm tired of working for corporate America, because let's go back to home and work in our community and build that up. Maybe I do maybe Chick-fil-A will give me a $20. The local corner store normally only pays, I don't know, 15. They're gonna meet me in the middle at 17.5. Maybe that $2.50 value is translated by me building up the community, and I go work for them and build them up. This is the opportunity we have now.
Right. Oh, one of the things I really would recommend for small businesses is that they, if they're just starting to get off the ground. 'Cause like yesterday, I had an interview with a potential client, and I wasn't sure where he was in terms of a marketing budget. Um, he
Mhm,
had he had one great idea that he wanted to get started when we first had our initial conversation, and then when we had that follow up conversation, he had a second idea, which was totally different, totally different industries. Because one it has to do with coaching, the other one has to do with fitness, and so um, I had to first try to figure out what he needs, where he is right now. And so sometimes we really want to help the business, but we can't because they don't have the budget for us. Even if we try to do our best to try to make it affordable. And so what I say is go out, and network. Like that's how you and I met, right? We were networking on Alignable. We met face to face through one of these, they call them smart connects,
mhm.
and we had a chance to say, hey, let's pick up that conversation afterwards because we struck off a good conversation right from the beginning, right?
Right.
Um, and but when you go to networking events, it's the same thing. You strike conversation, try to gather information, try to reconnect, and and then. But I always emphasize is once you've connected them with them, regardless of the way you've connected with them, try to find a way to connect with them on LinkedIn. Try to see if they're on LinkedIn because that's what I always do. No matter who I meet, if I meet them in person, if they reached out to me, because they saw, a post that I put on one of my social platforms, or on, like LinkedIn or Alignable or Facebook, and they reach out to me. Then I try to see if I can find them on LinkedIn. I ask them, "Are you on LinkedIn?" They say, "Yeah." Then I say, "Let's connect there as well," because
Mhm.
you never know where they're going to be later in life. Um,
Before you get too far, because you
yeah.
dropped out there in the signal for a minute, you said when you first meet them and you first get to, and he said try to, and right there it went off. Try, what was that?
Okay.
Try to.
Yeah, try to connect with them online. Try to see ask them if they're on.
Uh,
I mean, if they're on LinkedIn. If they say yes, try to connect with them there. Because the one thing that's great about LinkedIn is if they give you their business card, or you give them your business card and they lose it, there's what are the odds that you might run into them again, unless you go to
right,
another networking event where you run into each other. So if you connect with them on LinkedIn, you can always keep that relationship, and you can follow up with them. So that they change job positions, if they start a new company, whatever they're doing, as long as they're keeping that stuff up to date. And that's really important on LinkedIn, is that you keep your stuff up to date, because that's what helped me a lot in the beginning when I first started my business. Is anytime I thought something was related to what I do, I would
mhm,
add it in there on LinkedIn, so that if somebody went to my profile, they would see it there, right? And and then from there you can continue the relationship, depending on where you want to take it, because you can follow up through them through LinkedIn. Now you have an email, you can follow up with them through email. If you got a number, you can follow up with them on numbers. And what do they always say, right? The fortune's in the follow up. So if you
mhm,
don't have a marketing budget, and you're just trying to get off, because that was me in the beginning when I first started my first company. I First of all, I had no marketing skills whatsoever, because I was used to being an employee, and the customer base would come to me, uh, where I worked at, because the staff loved me, and they would refer the business to me, and I got along with everybody at the company, and so whenever they were looking for the kind of support I could offer, they would point them out to me, you know, or they would point me out to them, vice versa, and that helped build those relationships. But when I went on my own, the one thing I didn't realize, and reality kicked in really fast, is wow, nobody actually knows me out here, outside of this little box that I was in for the past so many years, right? Which was 1998 to 2007. I was always inside one of these boxes, and people knew me, for who I was inside that building, inside that business. But
right,
outside of the world, if I jumped on a bus, or I was inside of Starbucks, if they didn't know me, they were clueless as to who I was, right?
right.
And so that's the great thing about where we are today, where we weren't in the past, right? Because the internet has gotten so good that the avenues of communication are enormous, right? And so that's where it opens up the playing field for the small business to try to compete with the bigger corporations. It makes it challenging, because obviously they have a huger marketing budget, but nonetheless, it still gives you many. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're alignable, wherever you're at, the more exposure you create about yourself, the more you help drive business to yourself, by trying to create brand awareness. So that's my recommendation for somebody that doesn't have like a marketing budget. And then as you start to generate business, and you start to generate your profits, save up those profits. Obviously you're going to have operating expenses, but make sure that you're if you don't got good financial skills, that you try to find some way to get support on how to do that. And one of the plays I always tell people is go to your local SBDC, Small Business Development Center, because they offer all kinds of free support, where they'll, if you want to try to build your website from scratch, they'll show you how to build a WordPress website. If you want to learn how to do social media marketing, they have webinars on social media marketing. If you want to learn how to hire people, they have webinars on hiring. They have webinars on how to qualify for business loans. They will literally put a mentor with you that will work with you to help you. And initially, the challenge with that is it usually means you have to do all the work yourself, right? That's the one of the biggest challenges for small businesses. But
Scales.
because you have guidance that will help you get the momentum going, as long as you stay committed, the odds of failure decrease, they diminish, because you're consistent, and then you have this support system that you're paying nothing for, that's helping you understand what you need to do to create that brand awareness, right?
Right.
And then now you start generating that budget, and then now you can start to say, it's great that I learned how to do this, but I started my business doing, let's just say maybe you have a housekeeping business, right? You start a housekeeping business, and you help wealthy families get a housekeeper that can come and clean or take care of the kids, feed the dog, whatever the case may be, right? um, and that's what you enjoy doing, and maybe you had to do it, um, um, by yourself on your own at first, is to go out there and do the actual labor. But then eventually, like I said, with the right guidance, now you can hire one, a housekeeper to pick up more jobs for you. Then you hire another one, you hire another one, and before you know it, now you have a budget to market yourself. And then that's when you want to consider, what, um, it really helped me to learn how to do these things, but I'd rather, put this out to experts that are better than me, that understand how this all works, and hire them to, do the work for you. And in that sense, you create more jobs, because now you're helping that business keep their doors open and getting you business as well. All right. So that's where the positive circle comes in, right? Is you get started here, you get some free support, that you expand, you create jobs, and then that creates a sustainable family. Hopefully, if you're making sure that you're paying a fair wage to them, so that they can have living expenses. And yeah, man.
Absolutely. I like that we're coming up on 42 minutes here. Um, I like that you brought up the startup part. You know what I mean? Where you're many people, because that's a fear of a lot of people. Like they'd be like, I'm just not gonna do it because I don't know how and I can't afford to pay someone else. So I like the fact that you said start, a lot of us in the beginning, we're out there marketing ourselves. You know, we the budget's not where we need it to be, so we're doing this part ourselves. You get a little bit of training, which maybe they can contact you for training as well, and it might, it'll probably be a fraction of the cost maybe for you to do it for them for a year. And then the benefit of learning how to do it themselves, not that they'll be experts, but just knowing enough to stumble through it and start to, build it up like you said. I like that. I recommend that to business owners and artists of all kinds, because as you grow, what happens is it really makes it's added value for, even once you come to the point where your client comes to you and says, hey, I want to work with you, do A, B, and C, because now that they're familiar enough with some of the behind the scenes process, it makes them able to work with you and actually create realistic expectations, and they can be part of the creative process to help define and work with you, which really makes a win-win for everybody that's involved, both sides, them, you, and the customer.
Right.
um One thing I want to give you the opportunity to speak on is this, because you brought up another great point that we kind of tied in the segue there, of budgets in the beginning. So they don't have some people don't have the budget, and they feel detoured from that, right?
Yeah.
A beautiful option is joint marketing budgets, joint marketing strategies. So now if you got business A and business B that don't know each other, right? But or maybe they do know each other. Instead of having independent marketing budgets trying to accomplish the same thing for each other, they could come together, put their money together now collectively, or maybe it's three companies, who know? Collectively, now they can afford a high quality service from you,
Right.
and they can all go in together with it in their creative. That's what we'll do to develop that plan. But now they can all be seen through the same chipped in combined marketing pool to accomplish a high level quality campaign that they would otherwise have maybe waited 4 years to do individually. So I'll answer this for the people so that they can feel comfortable, because one, how many people maybe contact you, find out what you're worth, which is probably going to be I know you're the type that wants to help the community. So if they went to some agency, they're going to want to charge 10 times more, you're going to do it for the price you do it for, but they still say, wow, that's more than what I was thinking. So how many percentage starts there, right?
Hmm.
Come back, work with you later on, or just what do you think that normal rate is, so that they will know that they're not alone and saying, wow, that's not where I'm at right now. And now we could talk into the value of the joint marketing programs.
Well, this is, let me throw a twist into this because it's very similar to what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, one way to leverage, you know, capital in a way that you're helping each other without actually having to try to even pull your money together, is to find others in your industry that can complement what you do that you're not currently providing. And the same thing for them is they provide something, but they don't do what you do. So I'll give you an example, right? So I do this LinkedIn lead generation stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't do podcasting, right? And I'm not going to try to become the podcast expert too. Now I could try to hire somebody that does podcasting, but now I had to have an additional revenue source to cover that expense. So how can I do? How can I leverage uh, being able to offer podcasting? Well, I can just go to somebody else that offers podcasting and say, "Hey, look, I got this prospect, and I'm working with this client, and we're working on these things right now. But they're really interested in podcasting, and I don't do that, so I'm gonna bring this client over to you, and I'm gonna, you go ahead and take the conversation. You're the expert in your industry, and you explain to them how that will help them, you know, and in that sense, by helping them, I'm helping myself because now I'm showing that client that I'm also a source of resources, right? But then now I have a powerful power partner, right? That now can say, wow, this guy actually gave me some business. And when somebody gives me business, I you know I I'm gonna be honest, man. I feel bad if I can't give them business back right away, because it's like, wow, they didn't have to do that, but they did it. I, as a matter of fact, I had one recently that that passed on a referral to me, and that became business. And I don't have an immediate referral for her right now, but I know that the moment that I come across somebody that in our conversation says I need support in this, I can just say, perfect, I know exactly who you need to talk to, and then
Right.
now I pass on that referral to them. So
Right.
that's a way of how how you're mentioning, trying to bring your financial resources to market. That's an alternative way to do it.
Yeah.
That's not going to require you to put out any money, and it's not going to require them to put out any money. You're just helping support each other because you are
Great
within the
example.
industry, complementary.
Great example. And when you were saying that, one thing that came to mind was like, let's say prom time, right? You got the limo companies,
Hmm.
you got tuxedo places,
Hmm.
and then youth nowadays, they may not be trying to throw on the Stacey Adams or the dress
I love
shoe.
Stacey
They,
Adams,
they
by the way.
right. They might want to just rock the new $500 throwback Nike or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So now, to make it make sense for people, those three, let's say the tuxedo company, store, shop, the limo company, and it'll then add in the local hip sneaker vibe store, right?
Hmm.
Those three totally separate companies, let's say they all know each other on LinkedIn or
Hmm.
Alignable. Now they could actually come together, right?
Hmm.
Put a smaller budget together collectively and
Hmm.
reach the same people as the mass budget. The limo company puts the deal together where if you get a limo from them, the two the sneaker and the tuxedo discount at these stores, whatever, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
then they target the B2B factor with you. Now you can target the places that complement those people are going to be at in advance to now bring it all together. Like maybe they're going to, be at the hotels and or whatever, right? I don't know, whatever. So now you can target those venues, the restaurants, and then now they say you're searching, you're creating an optimization SEO in
Hmm.
advance, and now they're getting the lead generation for those particular groups of people, and then everybody wins from a much bigger marketing pool, and they had to put in less money to do it, and now three companies win instead of three different companies say, well, we don't have the budget to do that.
Yeah, and here's a perfect example how to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you redefined it that way, because that helped bring my thought process in a different into a different light here. So
Hmm.
going off what you just said, right? So let's just say somebody says they're they're a wedding planner, right? And
Right.
the wedding planner is going to need resources, like the limo, like you mentioned, is likely going to need a DJ, maybe need somebody that is a one of these photo booth businesses. Uh,
Hmm.
then you have the catering business. So if you put a package together, right, like you said, um, either where you're marketing that package, and then that money gets divided into the right resources based on the agreement of the contracts that you create, or one business says, I'm the wedding planner, and if you go with this source, the limo company, they will give you 10% off their normal prices, and if you go to this caterer, they'll give you 25% off their normal prices, and then you all push it out in your own email campaigns, right, which is one of the most efficient, low cost, most low cost ways of marketing your business. But if these five businesses send out that same email, but they're the emails coming from them, but then they're promoting those other four complementary businesses that likely that customer is going to need, right? Because
Right.
there's so many things that come with trying to get married. All these things that you need to get in place, and if you have one organizer and they have all these contacts, um, that it's a win-win for everybody.
Right. And
Yeah.
then even the icing on the cake, so to speak, wedding cake that is, would be, let's say they have four companies involved with that campaign, various, like you said, wedding planner, limo. Now they can come together. You can launch a B2B campaign to take their little package, right, with their
Hmm.
names on it. This is what we could offer together, right?
Right,
And
right,
we
right,
work together to do this long list. But it's going to identify the individual companies on there: wedding planner, limo, cake maker,
right.
boom, right? Now you
Exactly.
send that B2B to the luxury or just high value venues, and now you're connecting. Even though that venue may not say, okay, we have a customer for you tomorrow that wants this whole package, they might have a customer next week that says, yo, we're doing a birthday party, do you know anyone that makes cakes? Oh, well, you know what, yeah, there was a cake maker on this email I got. Boom, let's see if they do really good wedding cakes. Let's see if they can make your birthday cake. So now the cake company gets a client that they wouldn't have got if they never put that package together, came to you, and you go target the venues that offer weddings in the area, even though it has nothing to do with the wedding. But that's how that would work, so that each individual company is still out there promoting collectively under that one budget that they would have said they wouldn't have had enough to do on their own.
Right,
So
right.
that's great. um I'm really glad that you're out there doing what you do for the community. We got about 53, we're at 53 minutes here. Appreciate your time. So it's a great conversation. What have we not spoke about that you really want to deliver to the people that may see this?
I honestly, I think we covered pretty much a lot. If we missed anything, I'm not sure where we missed it, but I mean, I think we where our conversation started to where it evolved. I think we covered a lot of ground and really covered a lot of points. And it looks like I'm blurring in and out of here.
Yeah, yeah. Audio's good. Audio's good.
All right, that's the most important part, right? We covered significant ground, and just we were able to uh, create conversation around how businesses can, when they're trying to like get themselves off the ground, how they can start scaling, and
Yeah.
through relationships, through outreach, through branding, through marketing. So I think we're good, man, to be honest.
Yeah, that's great. And I really appreciate the fact that it's a conversation that pretty much a large percentage of business owners um, even artists, whether you consider yourself a business owner or not, is having in one dynamic or another where they realize it or not. And then to see that a person like you has built Social Gong to be able to assist them in a time of need where they may not even realize they need help or could benefit from help. I think
Right.
that was the powerful point there, especially at the end there where we were showing, you know, the businesses that feel like they may not have a budget to do a large campaign come together,
Yeah. And
get
see, and
with
the thing,
get with you and do a large campaign together.
the takeaway I always like to give, when I run into somebody that I can't help, I at least try to provide them sources and say, look, I know right now you don't, there's not a budget for what I do. I know, I can see from from the way you're carrying yourself that you are legitimately interested, but that the biggest barrier right now is the financial barrier. And then I start giving them guidance. Look, in the meantime, this is what I would recommend that you do, on your own, until you can come back and say, "Hey, Damien, thank you. I implemented these things, and now I'm in a position to do it." Because sometimes what I'll say is, if you can't afford for me to do what I do, from a LinkedIn lead generation standpoint, is, you know what? I'll teach you how to do what I do. So, and it's going to cut the cost by more than half of what I charge. And as long as you implement, these strategies that have been proven to work, then you're going to start to generate new business. And if
Yeah,
you and you can continue you can continue to do it on your own, if you're happy doing it because you're having success with it, or if you find yourself at a point where, um, you have enough business but you don't want to keep doing it, and you want to say, all right, Damien, thanks for helping me, showing me how to do this. I got enough business, but I really would rather focus on what I'm doing. And hey, take over the lead generation part for me. And I'll be like, sure, why not?
get it, get it, get it.
Yeah.
Summary: there's levels to everything, regardless of what level you're at. Contact Damon. Let him do an overview. Let him do a diagnostics of your current situation,
Yeah.
and no matter what your budget, kind of sort of. I'm not saying you're gonna get something for $5 now. To keep it real, but pretty much no matter what your realistic budget is, there's a level that he can service you at and provide a plan and a proposal to grow and scale your operation over time. Damon, closing remarks.
Yeah. If you decide you want to reach out to me, and you have a certain budget that you feel like you can work with, reach out to me. Tell me what your budget is like, and let me see what I can put together. But I'll also give you strategies of things that you can do on your own, to complement what I am able to do for you at the moment, so that, we get the flow going, right? It's like, they talk about the life we talk about life stages, right? When you're born, first thing you're doing is you're just crawling around, right? And eventually you get up, you stumble, fall, you get up again, stumble, fall, you get up again, stumble, fall, and eventually you start walking, and eventually you start jogging, and eventually you start sprinting. So build up from your crawl to your sprint, to accelerate your business.
Well said, well said. And on top of that, you gotta really respect and admire and appreciate someone who has the investment mind for the community that they're willing to provide you with free value up front ahead of a commissioned or contracted service. That you really got to understand what it takes to give someone some gain for free. So in this hour, he's provided you a ton of information. Be sure to check him out first, see what he can help you with. It's a great opportunity for all the small businesses out there. We have to take the communities back from the large corporations, because as you can see, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to do that, as they're going to start to have struggles and impacts that's going to redefine and create new dynamics that they're not used to dealing with. And here's the opportunity for the community to come together and say, you know what, now's the time to grow us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Look up Damien Orozco, Social Gong. Mention you saw this show that Pasha put together. so that I know that I know where to go with the conversation.
Always the perfect day. Pasha Paro, Damon say bye to the people.
Farewell, everybody. Have a great day.
Always the perfect day. Enjoy.